How the heck do you program a brand new S2 NetVR? Let's talk about that. So in this episode, we're going to talk about unboxing a brand new NetVR 120. How to log into the system, what the default username and password is, and changing that default username and password. How to program the IP address into the NetVR and adding a camera. Let's get started. So checking out the back of the box here, we have your standard power, and over here your NIC 1 and 2. We don't use this one at all. There is a VGA port on there. You really don't need anything VGA or even keyboard and mouse. And that's actually a lot of times people have a problem with, and they plug in a keyboard and a mouse and a monitor. And there really isn't anything you can do much in there other than set the IP address. This isn't a Linux operating system, but you really can't log onto the Linux operating system for this machine. Comes with this handy dandy big cable. Put that down there. We're gonna plug the power in and network. So on the back of this unit, there's two NIC cards, NIC card 1 and NIC card 2. When you first turn it on, you're gonna plug into NIC card 1, and the default IP address will be 192.168.0.249. So when you fire this sucker up, it's going to get a little loud in here. So I'll do my best to edit the audio out, so hopefully it's not crazy. But firing it up. With any luck, after it starts up, it'll not be as loud. So the first thing we'll have to do is change our computer IP address to match that of the Howling NVR. So to do that, you're just going to go to your network settings, and I usually do like 100, so 192.168.0.100, and that'll be on the same range of the Howling NVR. After you get your computer changed to be on the right IP address, you go to 192.168.0.249. And that'll bring you to the license identifier page. After you get to the login page, you're going to select I have read the conditions, and I can't see past my camera, and you hit apply. After it accepts your license, it'll actually kind of reboot itself. I don't think it reboots the whole machine, but it basically reboots the web interface of the NetVR. So now you've logged on and you have this page. This is basically your login page. People get confused sometimes that they can actually log in and see the cameras here, and unfortunately that is not the case. So the default for this is admin. And then I suggest obviously changing it, which I'll do later. So a few things on this page is you have the download the install the NetVR accelerator for Windows. The NetVR accelerator for Windows, and for Macintosh. And then the one that you really need here, if this is the first time you've ever installed one of these, is the setup tool. And this particular video is specifically based towards the NetVR style and not the VRX model NVR. The VRX we'll discuss in a later video when I can get my hands on one and fire it up. So you're going to install this NetVR setup tool, and you just click on this. It'll download, and you'll install it just like any other Windows program. A few other utilities that you'll have in here. You have the utilities page, which will enable you to, for the streamer service, restart the system, shut down the system if you're moving it, export the camera configuration file, configure this interface for SSL, and configure the server name. You have the Cumulus page, which the Cumulus page is for your Magic Monitor. So Magic Monitor is another subject that we'll discuss in another time. It's a very versatile highly over-engineered, complicated software that does a lot of things extremely well, but can be very hard to program the first time. Next tab is the software update page. You get your software license, the storage page, which shows you your hard drives, the storage capacity of each of your drives, and whether or not they're online or offline. Your about page tells you basically information of your system, your license identifier, the how long it's been up and running. From here, if you're working with S2, you have to be registered with S2. You have to be a technician and able to talk to them. And when you're on the phone with S2, they'll actually say, start an online support session, and this will actually start up a GoToAssist with a representative. Do not click on this if you're not on the phone with S2. And then log out. So, really, that's all that this is for. Once you've programmed this, once you've gotten it online and you've activated your key, you're basically done in the web interface, and you can close this down. And I'm going to close it down. And launch the NetVR client that I already have installed on my machine. If you don't have it installed on your machine, it might have to be installed. So here is the landing page of the NetVR client software setup tool. What you'll need to do here at first is add this NVR, your NVR, to the system. Simply hit New, and then type in the IP address of 192.168.0.249. And the default username and password that's currently in the system of admin. That you will change. You will change that password. Do you hear me? Change it. And hit apply. So now that you see that this camera is, or this NVR, that you can see that this NVR is now connected. The system tree on the side here tells you a few things. So here you have your NetVR server, to configure the system, add IP cameras, your storage, and I'm not going to go through every line, you can kind of go through it yourself. The few that you're going to want to work on, the main one you're going to work on is this configure system. So right here where it says NetVR server, and if you have multiple systems building A, B, C, D, E, F, or maybe this is in Atlanta, Georgia, or Phoenix, Arizona, or upstate New York, or wherever it is, and you're adding a new one to their list of servers, you want to be specific of naming that so that when they're looking at the software, they can actually see the camera and the NVRs that they're trying to log into, being the customer. So you can change this into whatever. How the heck? And hit apply. And you'll notice right here it says how the heck on the side. When you go to live view, there's no cameras on this. It'll say how the heck right there, and that's the one we're doing. The next thing you're going to do after you name your NVR is change the IP address and put it part of your system. So you're going to hit network here, and you're going to change it from static. You can keep it static, or DHCP if you're going to have a DHCP reservation. I highly recommend you either doing static or a DHCP reservation, because if it floats, and it'll just be a big pain in the tail. So we're going to do static, and I'm just going to change it to make one up here, 202 subnet. That your gateway is going to be, and a DNS I'm going to use Google's. And hit apply. When you change this, you will lose connection to your NVR, and you'll have to change your IP address back to your DHCP or back on the customer's network. I may not, because I have a dual NIC card on my machine. So we'll see here. So after you apply the settings to the IP address, you're going to drop connection, and you'll have to put the new IP address of of the NVR from this default of 192.168.0.249. It doesn't exist anymore. So if you'll see, it says that. So now you can actually change this back in the Add Systems tab. Click on your NVR, change your IP address to what was changed or was given to you by your network administrator. 10.0.0.202 is what I put in there. Admin currently, which I will change, and hit apply. So now you can see it's connected with the updated IP address. How the heck? And we can start configuring our cameras at this point. So I'm going to hit the Add IP Cameras section right here. And if you hit Rescan Network, it'll actually scan your entire network and find the majority of your cameras. If you have separate VLANs that you have, you may not be able to find your cameras. Speaking of VLANs and other NIC cards, the difference between your NIC card 1 and 2, or 0, yeah, it is 1 and 2, usually it's 0 and 1. So the difference between NIC cards 1 and 2, 1 is generally your data VLAN. This is where all your clients are housed. Any Magic monitors are connected to. This is where you're viewing the cameras from. NIC card 2 is generally your camera feed. All your cameras would go into NIC card 2 and out of NIC card 1. They have to be on separate VLANs or separate networks. So most of the time what happens is a customer, the end user, will program a separate set of VLANs. They'll give you one IP address for the data, which that's what you're going to program into all of your client machines. And then a separate VLAN for all your cameras. It has a totally separate IP range, a totally separate a gateway, so on and so forth. Here's one note. Even though it shows in NIC card 2 to have a gateway in there, do not put a gateway in there. Do not put a DNS or in primary or secondary. Only put that in NIC card 1. If you put it in a gateway into both NIC card 1 and NIC card 2, depending on the kind of VLAN you have, you may lose connection to that NVR. So just put your IP address and your subnet mask in NIC card 2. As long as your cameras are on that same VLAN, it will pump through NIC card 2 and you'll be fine. So after you've made your network configurations, I'm just using the one NIC card right now because this is just a temporary setup. I'm going to click the tab that says Add IP Cameras. And you can hit Rescan Network and it'll scan your network of everything that you have on your network for cameras. It may not find them all, like I said, depending on if there's different VLANs or even if it's a different building. You can program cameras wherever they are. As long as this NVR can access them, you can program them and it'll add it. So the scan will only scan on cameras that it can see. So if it's on a different VLAN or network, as long as it's accessible, you can add it to it, but you have to add it manually. So I'm going to add this camera here and this camera here, and I'm going to hit Add Selected. Since they are accessed, the default is root, and then the password of what I've changed it to. I'm going to select Use for All and hit OK. And it's going to start connecting to those two cameras that I just added. It'll actually connect and download all the information from those cameras, such as MAC address, the firmware, and it really does kind of start to take over that camera. I may have a problem with the one camera because it's already connected to another system. We'll see how that happens momentarily. So it'll take a few seconds to connect. You can see the one here connected. It did connect. This one here might have a little bit of an issue because I already have it connected to another machine. Okay, so it did both. So it says, your cameras have connected successfully. Would you like to adjust recording settings now? You can hit yes, or you can hit no and do it manually later on. I'll hit yes, see what that page looks like. So that brings you to the camera recording page for those two cameras. So this camera recording page, you can kind of do a bulk camera modify. So you can change the resolution, the format, the quality, the frames per second, so on and so forth. So I'm just going to change all this. You can say, okay, I want the max to be 1004 by 640. The frame rate, you can change your frame rate. So I'm going to say, you know what, I want this to be all 10 frames a second. H.264. You can change your quality to match everything. So put quality as 5. Hit apply to camera grid, and then hit apply down here. And that'll actually push that information to the Axis camera itself. It'll take a few minutes to download that information to the cameras. So now you've pushed that information to the cameras, and now what do you do with it? Now you can start configuring your cameras themselves. So the first camera here, which is behind me, there I am. There's a great picture of my derriere. You can change the camera name. So we're going to change the name to, or just leave it that, whatever that camera is. Go to your next camera, which is up here, and you wave to that camera, and you can rename that camera as well. And set up your motion grid. So you have your video settings. You can manually, so the last page, you can actually do all the manual settings in a bulk fashion and basically just pump all your changes that you want. But in this page here, in the camera recording page, you can set up kind of per camera settings. So if you don't want to do a bulk import and modify something, so say a camera needs to be a little bit brighter, you can change the brightness of a camera. You can do video masks. So say if I wanted to hit a mask and I wanted to mask, edit mask, and I want to grid out this area here and then hit apply, it'll download a video mask onto that camera, and then that screen will have a big black blob. And now look, you can't see me anymore on that camera. So we edit, clear mask, and then hit apply. A few other things, depending on the camera that you have, certain features may not be available in this machine, into this setting. So this is a wide dynamic camera. So if I hit disable, it'll actually disable the wide dynamic, and you can actually see that, and it'll actually change the way that the camera sees. So now you can see outside of my window is a little whitewashed there where I don't have the tint on my window. Or you hit level, and then it'll download to that machine and to that camera, and you'll actually be able to see through that window a little bit more after it finishes processing and rendering that video. And you can actually change the level and bring it up or down. And you can also see that it has the bars on that. That's the camera's, looks like the flicker rate is set to maybe 50 hertz, and I'm using 60 hertz. So that's what that is. So you can go into the camera settings itself and change the hertz of the camera. The recording tab, it'll tell you what the resolution you want to record at, the frame rate, H.264, which I highly recommend you using that. Motion, here's a big one. This is the one that everybody forgets all the time. And customers will call up and they'll say, camera doesn't record. Why isn't it recording? Well, most likely they never set up motion grids. So you can set up a bunch of different motion grids depending on the camera. I know Axis, some of the older ones, I think this model of the Axis camera, I can do 9 or 10 motion grids, but the newer firmware of the Axis cameras, you can only do 3, and it's a different type of motion window. You set your post and pre-motion, so meaning your recording is going to, when it's recording all the time, but it basically deletes those recordings. And then when it sees motion, it's going to not delete this pre-motion and post-motion before and after the motion event starts and stops. So this is for, I usually set for 5 seconds is what I usually set for. And then we can set different add and include areas. So if I want to say, say there's a tree right here, and I don't really care if the motion happens there. You can hit add exclude, and then this red mark. So we can actually set a section right here. Move this up a little bit more, and hit apply. And one thing you'll notice, like right now, you see how it gets blue like that? it's showing the motion. And if I stop moving, or if I go back into where that grid is, this is an exclude area, and that camera will not see me, it won't record on motion. And then once I get back in the view, you saw the blue box, it started to record on motion. So you have to set this up per camera, per your situation, per the area that you're trying to record. So I'm going to remove that. Oops, I'm going to remove the wrong one. We're going to add include, and you can add more than one spot. So say this is a really long hallway and it goes by percentage and sensitivity. You can say I want to add another one right here. And now the percentage, the sensitivity is 90 and percentage is 5. Well, this whole area, if this is a big area, the percentage of motion, well, I'm definitely 5% of this area. But if I was way down a hall, down in this area, the percentage is a lot smaller. So you'll need to have another smaller area and be able to get recording down a hall. So you, depending on, like I said, depending on the area that you're wanting to cover, you may have to set up you may have to set up multiple motion windows in areas that might need to be a little bit smaller, and you may need to adjust the sensitivity and percentage of that. And we're just gonna hit don't save now. Some of these other things we're not going to really get into because the cameras don't actually support them. The one you want to set up next maybe is your schedule. So depending on the camera, so it shows you your two cameras, it has your audio. These cameras, I think I enabled audio. Depending on the state you live in, you may not be able to have audio. So this would actually have to be turned off for alarm. And then you have event recording. So the difference between these different tabs, you have this red icon, which is event recording. So I've messed with these cameras quite a bit. You may not have this little red triangle. So I have different analytics and programmed on these cameras, and that's what that red triangle is. So it's actually recording different analytics that I've already set up. Yours probably doesn't have that set up. The blue bar is recording on motion. If you do not have motion windows set up, this will be blank. And if it is blank and it's not recording, that's the first place you want to check. Do you have motion windows set up on your cameras? You can also set this up to time lapse. So if you highlight the whole camera, you can hit camera time lapse. Capture an image every 1 second or 1 minute or once an hour, just to have it. Depending on the area, you may want to set that up so it records 1 frame a second, no matter what. And then when it sees motion, it'll bump up to that 10 or 15 or 30 frames a second. So if you would set it up right here to every 1 second, or you can do it every 5 seconds to give you a little bit more time, you highlight the area that you want. So say, you know what, I only wanted to do camera time lapse during business hours. So you do like 6 to 6. Highlight that 6 to 6 and hit set. What you're going to get now is a green triangle. It's kind of hard to see. Green triangle at the bottom here. Actually, if I turn motion recording off, you'll be able to see it much better. So now you see that there's a red triangle at the top, events or analytics, and the green triangle at the bottom, and that is camera time lapse. And you can set it to have the, whatever you highlight on for the cameras, you can set this up to do whatever you want. So you can say motion, so blue is motion, free run, meaning it's just going to record 24/7, all the time. It will populate in your camera management window, your recording, that it does have motion as long as you have motion set up. You can set, if you hit this to none, as long as you have that red triangle in there and you're using analytics, so I'm using analytics, it is technically recording right now. And again, if you have a brand new camera out of the box, you may not have analytics that I've already installed on that a long time ago. One thing very important, if I hit apply right now, and you walk away and you think, I'm good. I programmed all my cameras. Well, not really. You programmed Thursday, because today's Thursday. When you go to Wednesday, it didn't change. When you went to Tuesday, it didn't change. So you can change if you have different needs of the customer. Say you want to save more storage, or if Friday through Saturday, you know, overnight, you don't have a problem, or vice versa, you have more of a problem, you can actually change how you set up the recording time. So say you only want motion from this time, you don't really need camera time lapse during these time. Say even at you know, overnight, you want it to be free run overnight. So you have free run from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. and starting at 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. is free run as well. But during the day, 6 to 6, it's just record on motion, or again, vice versa. And then even with that, you can say during this time, you want to have, in addition to recording on motion 6 to 6, and free run 7 to 5 a.m. free run, I'm going to have camera time lapse on 6 to 6, so that it records 1 frame a second, but then on motion it goes full frame. Or again, you could do that the opposite, where during the day here, 6 to 6, it's going to be free run, and then 5 to 12, it's motion with capture 1 frame every 5 seconds, 1 second. And then from, again, 7 to 11 at night, we're going to set that, and then hit motion recording, and then hit apply. Now again, I only did that to Tuesday, so how do you make that change for all of them? What you want to do is set this, after you get your schedule set, you're going to hit this button down here that says whatever tab you're on. So if I hit set right here, it'll set it for all of these days, and then I hit apply. Or if I went over here and I set it here and hit apply, it would set it to this profile. Or you can just say, you know what, this is the profile that I want during the day, so I'm going to deselect Sunday and Saturday, actually Thursday, because I know that's where my other one is, and then I'm going to hit set and I hit apply. Now on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, that schedule is set. On Thursday, oh, I must have hit Thursday too. So now I'm going to change it. So Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to change it. So I'm going to change it. So on Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to have it set to motion recording, but capture 1 frame every minute, every 5 minutes, or you can do every minute. Capture every 5 minutes. Hit set. I'm going to deselect all of these. Let's select Sunday and Saturday, set, apply. Now, on Saturday and Sunday, those 2 schedules are set, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday is that other schedule. So after you've gone through and done your entire schedule, the last step you're going to do before you add it to your customers' computers is probably adding some users. So archiving, we're not going to get into archiving right now. Accessories, custom icons, file management, users. What you will want to do, obviously, one is change the password. So this one here, once you log in, or you give your customer the password of, you know, John Doe and password 123456, the customer will go here and change their own password. But to give users, we're going to hit users here, hit new, and give a user how the heck. And you can select different categories. So you have full admin, power user, live only, search only, live and search, or you can create a new user role. Some of these we're going to go into another video, so this video is getting actually a little bit long. So for this example, for now, for this, firing up a brand new one, we're just going to give this person full admin right, give them password 123456. Oh, I can't do 123456 because you have to do a minimum of 8 characters. You have to have a lowercase and uppercase and special characters, or minimum passphrase of 20. Oh, password is too common. So you do have to have a special, a longer password. So we'll set that up and then hit apply. And now we've created a user for this. On users, another very important tip, security tip. On a S2 machine, now this GUI is, or the software that's on an S2 NetVR is basically the eXacq Vision. Not basically, it is the eXacq Vision software. However, when S2 brands it for their own, they put their own custom coding on the back of it to be able to attach to their net boxes, their controllers. They put this S2 netbox username and password in here. Security tip. You also, on top of changing the admin password, you need to change the S2 netbox password. Because if you don't change that S2 netbox password and someone tries to log into it and they know what that password is, which is not the same as admin, it's a different password, but they'll be able to log into that system using that if they keep it as default. So that's basically it. In this video we discussed firing up a brand new NetVR, changing the IP address of the NVR, logging in to the NVR after you've changed that IP address, added a couple cameras, adjusted camera resolution, and adding a new user. Hopefully this video added value to your day. If it did, let me know by hitting that like button below. Thanks, and have a great day. We'll see you in the next one. And we're going to power this thing up, and here's where it's actually going to get hard for you to hear me, because it's going to get real loud. It's going to get real loud. It's going to get real loud. Oh. Yeah, that helps. It's getting loud.